Hello, I'm Teresa Davis. I am a real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty in Greensboro. I actually live in Thomasville, so I try to help the people of Davidson County as much as possible with any real estate needs that you may have. Today I'm with Misti Whitman. She is with the law firm Citrin and Whitman in Thomasville, and I wanted her to share some of her knowledge on how important it is to do surveys. When you set out to buy a piece of property, once you find a piece of property that you like and make an offer on it and it's accepted, you enter into what's called the due diligence period. And during that time, you're supposed to do your inspections and surveys and check for termites and that kind of thing. And sometimes a survey is something that people forego doing and decide not to do it to save money. But I wanted to do this video to let you know how important surveys are. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
And if you'll share some of your knowledge with us about surveys and how important they are, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Used to, surveys were mandatory. You could not get a loan without having your property surveyed. You couldn't get title insurance without having your property surveyed. And so they were very commonplace. Everyone got them. Unless they were paying cash, then they had the option of not getting them. But almost everyone got surveys. Over the years, title insurance companies started giving lenders coverage for matters of survey without a survey. Now, owners still have survey exceptions, so you don't get survey coverage on your title insurance unless you have a new survey with a map in your name. A lot of folks think they can use somebody else's older survey, but that's not true. Older surveys are what the property looked like at the time that the surveyor did the map.
Right.
Those things change, and so you have to have an updated survey in order to have survey coverage. So a lot of people don't want to spend, a few $100. It can be more if you're buying a large tract, if there's a lot of heavy woods that the surveyor has to go through to actually do the survey. But if you're doing a survey of a platted subdivision lot, usually it's just a few $100s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, buying your home is the largest expense most people will ever have. So if you buy a $100,000 home and your survey was $500, that is such a relatively small expense in comparison. Think of it this way. When you enter into a contract to buy a house, what you're actually buying is the dirt. You're buying the dirt and the fixtures that are on that dirt.
Right.
Okay? I can tell you whether or not you have a legal title to the dirt, but I can't tell you what dirt you're buying. Only a surveyor can tell you where your dirt is.
Right.
So you think you're buying a house. You're buying legal title to a piece of property and the fixtures on it. But if you don't have a survey, you don't actually know which dirt you're purchasing.
Right.
And people don't understand that. There could be encroachments. If people could have added a fence or a storage building or put in a swimming pool, all sorts of things that could be located on your property, or it could have been it was supposed to be on your property and it's located on your neighbor's property.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of folks don't understand too, I have no way of telling you if your house is on the dirt you're purchasing. I have no way of telling you if your fence is on the dirt you're purchasing. I have no way of telling you if your driveway is on your dirt. I have no way of doing this. It's especially important to have surveys if you have easements. You may have an access easement to your property, or your property may be subject to easements for other people's benefit.
Right.
Without having a survey, you actually don't have any idea where those easements are. Well, if someone has an access easement that crosses your property, you're limited in the things that you can do within that access easement. If someone has a septic easement that encroaches upon your property, you're limited in what dirt you can remove, what plantings you can put there, all sorts of things. And if you don't know where the easement is, then you have no way of knowing what your limitations are and where. I've had situations where a few years ago we had one with a local subdivision here where the subdivision was created. After the subdivision was created, 2 of the lots were replatted. So they changed the subdivision lines.
Oh, no.
Well, the attorney that did a closing, and this was a number of years ago, the attorney that did the closing picked up the original platted subdivision, because frequently the seller will have their own attorney preparing the seller documents.
Right.
So the attorney that prepared the seller's documents probably didn't even realize that the subdivision that the developer had it replatted. So they used the plat they had on hand, said lot XYZ from subdivision, plat book, such and such. Well, the attorney that was closing the transaction did not catch that the old plat booking page was used and not the new one.
Oh no.
So the lot that was conveyed to these property owners was actually half of a different person's lot.
Oh my goodness.
Well, this went on for years. People built houses on what is supposed to be the correct lots, even though they didn't have legal title to the correct lots. And all was well and good until a few years ago when we had the real estate bubble and there were a lot of foreclosures, and the next door neighbor lost their house in foreclosure.
Oh.
So when the bank foreclosed on it, the bank had a survey done and discovered that the property that the bank owned and had foreclosed on went directly through my client's house.
Oh my goodness.
Through the middle of their house.
Oh my goodness.
Now, I didn't do the closing for my client, but they came to me to help fix it. And everybody makes a mistake. So I'm not, blaming anyone in particular for that. These things happen, but surveys can help prevent it.
Right.
So it's one of those things where this house had been sold to several owners since that time.
Oh,
and had any of the owners had a survey, they would have said, there's a red flag here. You don't own half your house.
Wow.
People don't understand these things can happen. I had folks that bought a piece of property at the beach. Realtor listed the piece of property for sale, advertised it. It was an oceanfront lot. Went, took them and showed them. They saw stakes in the ground. And stakes in the sand at the beach are hard to find, by the way. But they saw stakes in the sand, and they were thrilled, and they spent $300,000 on this oceanfront lot. They didn't have a survey. Well, guess what? That beach had eroded, so their oceanfront lot was actually about 15 feet underwater.
Oh my goodness.
The lot that they thought they were buying was actually one lot back that belonged to someone else.
Oh my goodness. That's horrible.
It is.
It's horrible.
But a survey would have told them that.
Right.
People do not understand. And more frequently we see things like you buy a house and the next door neighbor comes over and says, oh, by the way, your driveway's on my lot and I don't want it to be there anymore. You're going to need to move it.
Oh, that would be a huge problem.
And oftentimes you have to move it, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, so really the cost of trying to fix something like that is much larger in comparison to what you would pay in the beginning for a survey.
Correct.
So,
with it being the most expensive purchase that most people make in their lifetime, spending that money up front is insurance.
Right.
I would never buy a piece of dirt without knowing where my piece of dirt was.
Right.
And I say that because people say, well, I'm buying a house. But what people don't fundamentally understand is you're not buying the structure. You're buying the dirt, and the structure comes with it.
Exactly.
So if you don't buy the dirt, if you get the wrong dirt, you don't get the house.
In the beginning, you stated that if you don't get a survey, then a lender actually automatically gets title insurance.
So lenders require you to get title insurance, and the title insurance companies will grant survey coverage to the lenders without a survey. So they basically said, we're going to play our odds here. If we close, 700,000 homes and we only have to pay 3 claims, it's worth it for us to give the coverage. So they're just playing the odds. But they're not willing to do that for the property owners. So they'll do it for the lenders so they get the business, but they won't do it for the property owners. So the only time it really becomes an issue for the lenders is if the lender has to foreclose. That's why it being an issue is so small.
Right.
Whereas the owners, it's a much larger chance that there's an issue, and so they will not give you survey coverage. So your title insurance policy will have an exception to matters of survey coverage if you do not have a new survey done with a map in your name.
And just briefly tell them what title insurance does, if you've got it.
So title insurance protects you from a number of things. It protects you from things that I can't find in a title examination. For instance, let's think about if there was a forged deed in the back chain of title. If I see a deed that is properly notarized, I have no way of knowing that could potentially be a forgery. Title insurance, if someone came up and said, that's not my grandmother's signature, that's really my property, and they sue you to try to get the property, title insurance is going to protect your interest that you've paid for the property, and they're going to provide a legal counsel to defend it for you.
Right.
Now, title insurance is not like car insurance. Car insurance you pay every 6 months. Homeowner's insurance you pay every year. Title insurance you pay at one time, and it's for the lifetime that you own the property.
Right.
So even if you're not getting a loan, I advise you to get title insurance. I don't buy property without it myself, And if someone comes to me and says, I don't want it, they have to sign something for my file saying that they've been advised to get it and they have gone against their legal advisement to choose to not. So when you get a survey and you bring it to me at closing, we actually submit a copy of that map to the title insurance company. And they're relying on the surveyor's statements there. Surveyors are professional surveyors. They are licensed, and so the title insurance company will rely upon that you have good title to that piece of property. So if a boundary line dispute comes up in the future, which does happen, then if you've got a valid survey, the title insurance company will then defend that for you as well. And boundary line disputes are common. These legal descriptions, I don't know if you've ever read some of the really old ones.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite legal description was from Allegheny County. That's up in the mountains. And the legal description actually said that it was so many hundred links and chains to the point in the stream where Bessie the cow drank. Okay. The stream didn't move, the cow didn't die, and who's Bessie?
Yeah.
So some of these old descriptions, I mean, they can be very difficult, and you can see how boundary line disputes can occur.
Right.
You know, the next door neighbor's boundary line may have said where Bessie drank, but he may have thought Bessie was a different cow drinking at a different stream.
Right.
So you could end up having overlapping property lines. It happens.
Yeah.
So it's important to have survey coverage there as well. Now that's a case of a large tract, but like the matter of the subdivision where the line went through the house, that is a huge issue that unless you have survey coverage,
right,
you're out of luck there. You end up having to go back and try to sue the person that conveyed the property to you, and it's a problem.
Yeah, and as she spoke before, getting a survey can sometimes be anywhere from $350 up to on up, depending on the size of the property and where you're located. If it's something that you can't afford and you still want to do it, a lot of times in negotiations we can ask the seller to pay for your survey. But as you can see from the video and some of the information we've given you, it's not really something that you don't want to do. It's a very important part of buying your home. So it's something you don't want to not do.
It is protecting your investment, the largest investment that you will make, and it's very crucial. And a lot of times, this is not a popular statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a lot of people out there that will buy homes that really are buying them before they can afford them. When you're buying a home, if you have trouble coming up with the money to buy a survey, you have to think in the back of your mind, am I going to be able to replace the roof on this house when it needs to be replaced?
Right.
Am I going to be able to afford a new HVAC system when my heating and air unit goes out? So it's one of those things that you need to be smart about this. You need to have saved up the appropriate amount of money, and you need to be in the right financial position when you do this, because no one wants to purchase a home and then set themselves up for failure.
Exactly. And that's something too, if you're interested in buying a home and want to know the things that you need to prepare for and some of the costs that you might come about, get with me and I can sit down and discuss that with you, and we can discuss the steps toward your goal of owning a home. And it may be something that you need to save for the next year, but like Misty said, you want to have enough money that you can pay for the things that you need up front and get it done right, so you're not setting yourself up for failure in the long run.
And surveyors, there's several good surveyors in this area, and the surveyors are very reasonable.
Right.
And you can contact the surveyor up front, and especially if you're buying a lot in a subdivision or a relatively small acreage tract, you can get them to give you a fee quote for it, so you know up front what you're getting into. It doesn't have to be a shock.
The last survey that I had done was less than an acre, and it was in a subdivision, and the cost was $325.
And that's very reasonable.
Yeah. So, okay. Was there anything else that you would like to add? And I'm sure if you have any questions, or if you would like to use Citrin and Whitman for a real estate closing that you have coming up, then you can call their office. If you'll let them know how to get in touch with you.
Certainly. You can reach us at 336-476-3158. Or if you have questions, you're welcome to reach me via email. It's Misti, M-I-S-T-I, at Citrin, C-I-T-R-I-N, and A-N-D, Whitman, W-H-I-T-M-A-N.com. and we'll be happy to help you. Lots of folks will email me if they're thinking about buying a home or if they just have general questions. And if you're emailing me with just a general question, I may not get back to you within 24 hours, but I will get back to you as quick as possible.
Yeah, she stays pretty busy.
We do stay very busy, but it is a big, important purchase for you, and I want to make sure that people understand what they're getting. And the other thing, too, focus on those easements as well. If you're buying property, really make sure you understand if there are access easements or easements that are the property is subject to, and restrictions. A lot of times people don't pay attention to property restrictions. So ask. If you're not closing with our office and you're closing with someone else, make sure you get copies of those restrictions, and make sure if there's an HOA involved, that you get copies of the HOA budgets and you know how that HOA stands. No one wants to purchase a piece of property in a neighborhood only to find out the HOA doesn't have enough money to support it.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's important.
Yeah. There's a lot of important things, and that's why that it's important that you get with a real estate agent to help you through your transaction when you're trying to decide whether you want to purchase a house or not. I will put Misti's information at the end of the video, and so you can reference it there. And if you have any questions, I'll have my information there as well.
And you're also welcome to reach out to Sarah Young. She's another attorney in our office. Or Jackie Moore is a real estate paralegal, or Hunter Briggs.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your information with us
You're
today,
welcome.
and I appreciate you taking the time to do the video.
Thank you.